Hello, welcome everybody to Living Coastal in Ventura Housing Market Update for 2025, October. This one is so significant. This is the most significant data update. I'm gonna have significant ones in the future, but this one is the one that's gonna count the most looking backward and forward, and here's why. The data shifted just a little bit in August to September, and then pretty significantly in October. And if you're a seller or you're someone looking to move up or move down, you're a buyer, you're going to want to hear this data. It is not what we thought was going to happen. It's flipped again, and it's going the other direction. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We're going to get into it right now. So, talking about data, talking about Ventura County housing update. We've been selling homes in Ojai, Upper Ojai, downtown. We've been doing West End Ventura, East End, Beach, or even getting into Oxnard. A lot of things on the beach and in the marina, Camarillo golf course communities. Inventory is up. That's the theme of 2025. It's significantly up over 24 and 23. But what we've seen this year, starting around April and March, we saw the inventory for housing go up significantly, almost 4 times what it was at the peak of that pandemic market or post-pandemic market when they started increasing interest rates. And what happened was we saw that pullback where sellers didn't want to sell. They had such great interest rates, and especially in 2023, we saw that thin market inventory, which caused the market to go up even more after we saw the low interest rate really inflate values. So 2024 was kind of a reality check, and 2025, the reality hit. And that's the data that I'm talking about. What we saw in the spring is we saw the inventory really go up. And in the city of Ventura, we saw hitting 204 to 210 active listings, kind of hovering in that range. And then we also saw, let me just check that right here. We saw around the 74 mark, between 70 and 80 being absorbed going pending. But what was really interesting about August is that we saw the number of closings go down, and it went below that 70, 80 mark and went to 66. But what happened in September? Well, in September, it jumped up dramatically. It went to 107. So part of that was probably a carryover that probably should have landed in August to keep things consistent, but it hit September. But what's really different is the inventory. It's finally going down the other way. That's so different. That is so different because if you were following these videos, I projected, okay, if we hit that 180 to 200, we're going to see some slough off in prices, and we did. Saw reductions. We see things closing in lower numbers. We're still seeing transactions happen, particularly between the 800 to 1.2 range. But what we're seeing is prices slough off. That's because the interest rates have been high. Affordability is there. The demand has gone down because affordability just isn't there. It's barely there. So the thing that was really helping that was the inventory going up. And I said, if we see inventory go to 220 or 230, we're going to really see an increase. We're going to see particular neighborhoods really start to drop those properties if those sellers want to exit. If they really want to exit, they might not have a sold or they're having that capital gain. They might be writing a check to sell, especially if they bought in 2022 or 23 or 21. So a lot of people who had bought the last decade or they owned a long time, they have the refinances, they're still sitting pretty with all that equity. So if you're a seller, chances are you have equity. If you moved during the pandemic or post-pandemic and you just moved and were kind of taking a shot, there's a good chance, to be honest with you, that you're either going to be break even or lower. But the good news this month is that we're not seeing it run away in inventory. That's a really key number to keep and maintain equities in the home, in this housing market, because if that was hitting the 22 or the 23 mark, 220 to 230, if we saw it hitting that mark, we'd really start to see reductions in prices. So now there's a little bit of that hopium that the prices have reduced, 5 or 10%, and that we're seeing properties come on. We just had our quarterly meeting, Quarterly Best. I'm really excited to make that today, but we had our meeting with one of our top producers in the whole country. And one of the big things that she saw in Colorado was that we're seeing sellers have to, leave money on the table if they had moved and purchased and kind of over purchased. We're seeing a little bit of that in Ventura. But Ventura's such a thin market that it's kind of hanging on to it. It's kind of hanging on to that spot. So if you're a seller, you want to either call your realtor, reach out to us, and figure out where your market value really is, not that projected or perceived value. We're starting to see agents and assistants of agents that are high listers that are known for listing ridiculously high, especially in the luxury market. And they're up maybe 2-3x what the property's actually worth. It's like you're just wasting time, wasting expectations. Sellers are getting worn down, and those transactions aren't happening. The exits aren't happening like they'd like to see. So what's really significant about this month, just to reiterate it, is that the inventory is actually going down the other way. Now, the big thing is that, yes, that's seasonality. That's what we're going to see. We're in October. We're getting towards the holidays where people are going to nest. If they're thinking about selling, they're probably going to wait till January or February to list. I have noticed the last trends is actually the pre-spring is to set up to list in January or February, beat that bulk inventory market that it's going to be selling in March, April, May. Now you do want to be on, but it's always nice to be on already and then be there for that spring rush and maybe beat that market, have a narrower number of buyers, but narrower number of competition really is what you want to see. And that's going to benefit you as a seller. One of the other things we learned is that sellers need to prep their property. It's not an if, we're just going to sell it as is. No, you're not going to sell it as is, or you're not going to sell it. You've got to get the property prepped. We recently just helped a seller prep their properties. It's kind of my standard, and I'm one who says do as much as you can do. Do what you can do. If it's 3,000, spend 3. If it's 10, if it's 30, 30 goes a long way. If you're multi-millions, it really depends on the condition. But anything, up to 1.5, $30,000 can go so far. It's going to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference in your initial negotiating price and your list price, and in the post negotiations. Post negotiations are tough right now. Buyers are savvy. If there's anything going wrong, they're going to make a big deal about it, or they're going to walk. And all of a sudden, you don't want to be in a situation where there's 29 homes for sale and you're getting one showing per house. That's very thin. That's very thin. So that's what they're seeing in Colorado. It's not that thin in Colorado. Or in Ventura, we just did open house on our Mission listing, and we had probably 30, speculative people through. But of that 30, maybe only 5 real buyers or 5 buyers that were prepared, that were actually working with an agent or were pre-qualified. So it's still very thin compared. Now, if we just pricing, we'll see more, but we're gonna have to follow that one. And this data is a really big deal. I just want to get into it really quick and show you guys what happened. So we've got 195 were active in September, but a week into October, and it was 10 less than that. And we were hovering around the 204 mark. So that's significant. Escrows went way up with the absorption. So this month, October, it'll be very interesting to see what actually gets absorbed, because closings are actually down in September. Absorption was up, but the closings are down. So that might be due to some long escrows. We're also going into that seasoning period. So my prediction for the holidays is it's just going to get a little bit slower. If you're a buyer, this is your moment. This is your moment right now. You do not need to wait for 2026. You really do not. We are at that point where we know how this is going to affect the CPI reports. We know that this data is not going to help these inflation numbers hang on to that 3%. They're going to get to the 2, they're going to get to the lower, and they're going to be dropping rates. And it's not a narrative anymore. It was a narrative, and I had said that in the past videos. We're having a narrative about the Fed dropping rates. Jerome Powell, for whatever reason, is doing whatever he can to not drop them, to be very hawkish. But what we're going to see, and this government shutdown, that's not affecting this data at all. It's not. It's going to shut down. They do this every year. It's a silly game. I wish they didn't do it. But we're going to get through this, and they're going to get everything turned down. We're going to get the data, but it's going to come in a little late. But we're seeing it right now. This is not inflationary housing data. This is deflationary housing data. They are going to drop those interest rates. Now's the time. Now's the time. While we're seeing these reductions in prices and it's coming down, we're already starting to see a little bit of a bottom out with that absorption at 107, big absorption. But with that inventory going lower, the prices aren't going to be going much lower. Now's your time to get that low offer, maybe offering 5 or 10%, under market what's been on for many days, or getting these fixer off markets. There's a lot of things happening off market. At our brokerage, we do a good job of sharing what we have coming soon and what's going to come up and what we're working on. And if we've got buyers that are in that criteria, we can walk them through and maybe put a deal together before it hits the market. It's harder to do because we're not prepped. If you are a seller and you want to sell for top dollar, finish the prep, put the icing on the cake, do the staging, do the HD photos, do our marketing plan with different social ads on different mediums, what you see on YouTube, what you see on Instagram. It's all going to be different. It's going to be geared towards that audience and who the buyer is going to be. So that's the kind of stuff you want to do if you're a seller. If you're a buyer, this is the moment, because what we're going to see in 2026 is really more of what we saw in 25, which is a bottoming out. I believe that we'll see more of these properties come to market. We're going to see sellers come in at realistic prices, and we're going to see them have their properties prepped and ready with fixes and or prepared to do concessions and give back to make the deal happen. We're going to see people that are motivated to exit, which is a perfect buying time. And while that happens and we see that interest rate comes down, you can win on price, and you can win on a refinance, and you can get into living, which is what we really like to talk about when we're talking about living coastal in Ventura. So that's our market update for October. Continue to check this channel out. We're going to get into more detail per city and the county and really reach out. We're still seeing Ojai is being our slowest market. Oxnard is our busiest. Ventura is pretty on par with that. Camarillo was the busiest and hottest market, but that one's starting to slow down. I really believe that they had the post mountain fire, people scrambling to get housing and being competitive and kind of pushing up on price, and then that false expectation of that with some of the sellers. But now it's really starting to hit those expectations. When you see the expectations, you start to see it kind of slow down a little bit. So, our hottest cities right now, Ventura, Oxnard in the 805, followed by Camarillo and Simi Valley, Moorpark, and then Ojai still our slowest, but very desirable. So if you guys are looking to move in Ojai, there's a bunch of neighborhoods. It's probably the most eclectic little town, and every neighborhood is so diversely different in what it has to offer. And you really want to work with an expert. We were looking at a property, $3 million property over Creek Road, which is on a neighborhood all of its own and has views like you've never seen before. Like people don't even know, because it's on the leeward side of the valley. So we're doing transactions all over, and whether it's Camarillo, Ventura, Oxnard, and Ojai, that's where we really like to focus. If you want to do Carp, we're not far. Santa Barbara as well. Tio will go all the way out to the valley, and we have partners for other parts of Southern California at Sotheby's here. But thanks again so much for watching. Like and subscribe, reach out, leave a message, whatever you desire. And I'm so glad you guys are here and paying attention. We'll see you soon. Bye.